You are comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life-marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government. You are comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man. Hey, Noah, got you back, and I was just telling the folks, we are on the air, comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man, Alameda, California. Special guest today is a Renaissance man and the original baby boomer, Noah Griffin. Noah Griffin, how are you?
Doing, Ralph. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be on the air with you.
Oh, well, it is my pleasure. You are, your resume reads like the most interesting guy in the world. You're a Harvard-educated attorney. You grew up in San Francisco and went to Fisk and got awards and came back to San Francisco and stayed.
It's funny. My parents were 50 and 39 when I was born, and I always wanted to maximize my time with them. So every Christmas and every summer, save one, I came home. And then I realized, there are a lot of people who can live anywhere they want to live, and they live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was born here, so why not just come back and stay? So it worked out really well for me. Right. You don't miss those eastern winters, do you? No, my kids kind of learned. My older boys went to Michigan and to Oregon for school. And after some really snowy weather back in Michigan, some really rainy weather back in Oregon, they decided to come back, too. So they're living in the Bay Area as well. Oh, you got a blessed life, man. I absolutely do. What's really nice is that you and I are both baby boomers, the same year, 1946, and we both have, we're happy to be old because we have memories and memories of our memories. Well, and we're not... And we're not what? I'm sorry. No, I was just... Go ahead. I talked over you. Yeah, no, the memories are fabulous. I mean, we grew up in a golden era. Life was, of course, as all people at age say, was a lot simpler then. Right. About your love of the game of baseball, the number of teams, and the heroes that we have now passed into idlehood. I mean, I got a chance to meet Willie Mays and Willie McCovey and Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio and guys like that. And my kids say, "You met who?" Right. And when you're a kid. And you wrote and recorded the song for the original AT&T Park when they built the ballpark downtown. You want to tell us a little bit about that? Well, that was a fun venture. We were just so excited that the new ballpark finally came to pass. You're getting old when you remember at least three ballparks in San Francisco, the old Seal Stadium and then Candlestick Park. Then they moved to the new one downtown, and I was in politics when they got the go-ahead for that, and just so jazzed about it that we wrote the song and recorded it, and I can give you a little of it if you like. Oh, I wouldn't have had the gall to ask you. I'm pleased without music, or you want to? Oh. I remember the day when the team used to play at the old Seal Stadium and the Candlestick Park. Though the contrast was stark, we still had lots of fun. Now we've moved to downtown, and the one thing we found, if you build it, they will come. It's no longer a dream. We're that World Series team in this new millennium here at AT&T Park. We're playing down by the bay, wide on the Embarcadero. Makes you smile and say, hey, you want to see giant baseball? Better get out today to see the San Francisco Giants, the team of Mays, McCovey, and Marichal, too. There'll be new Hall of Fame players who'll be waiting for you. You'd better get to the park so you can watch what they do and see the San Francisco Giants. Boom, 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 boom. We've been one ball playing town, right from DiMaggio Duel. The weather's never too hot. The good old fog keeps you cool. You'll never leave San Francisco. You're nobody's fool. You miss the San Francisco. Boom, ba bum, ba ba bum, bum. The San Francisco. Boom, 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 boom. San Francisco Giants, go team. Obviously, some updated lyrics when they moved to AT. They changed it to AT&T Park, but that's the essence of it.
That it'll always be AT&T. I mean, it's like how do you change it in your mind when after all those turn downs? You mentioned you were in on it politically. There were 3 times in recent. When I say recent, now within 25 years, 30 years, when the Giants were as good as gone, voted down a number of times for a stadium, and to have it come to fruition, it's a kick in the ass.
Well, they had some really fine political mentoring and some good folks backing it, and they knew how to put it before the voters in the right kind of way. Everything they said was going to be true was true. The traffic is not an issue down there. They talked about accessible transportation, and there is accessible transportation, being able to walk to the ballpark from downtown. The original plan was to build a stadium in the downtown area. Ben Swig and many of the other city fathers and patrons in those days were in favor of a downtown stadium, and that would have really worked. But, in the George Christopher era, got built out at Candlestick Park, and I'm not going to complain. That was great. There were some great years out there. But fulfilling that dream and building a stadium that's kind of on the lines of the park back in Baltimore and those iconic Camden Yards, it's great.
Well, no, I hate to be the complainer about Candlestick, but it makes it all the greater that there was a Candlestick that just didn't work. From day one in 1964, I think it was, when they opened, the built-in heaters for the seats didn't turn on.
Yeah,
anybody...
I think it was 62 or so. It was cool. It was they didn't turn. It was windy. They hadn't fenced the entire stadium area in, as you know, out to the center left field area that was open to the wind and all. It was gusty, and I remember John Bowles was the architect, and John was a friend of mine, and he said he got hammered by Herb Caen mercilessly. Our famous columnist for so many years.
Right.
And he said the only way that he got out from under the hammering of Herb Caen, and this is a true story. They're both dead and gone now, but he told it to me directly. He said that he invited Herb Caen over, and Herb Caen, wife at that time, M.T. Caen, had gone out with John's son when she was single, and a few bottles of wine were passed, and Herb looked up at the wall and admired one of the paintings up there. And asked for it. And John Bowles took it off the wall. He said, Herb, I'm going to give you this painting with the proviso that good, bad, or indifferent, I'm never mentioned in your column again. And the deal was struck. They were able to clear up a lot of the faults that the old windy, windblown stadium had, but none of them compared to the benefits of having it downtown. And it's justified by the attendance. I mean, they sell out almost every year. They have a few issues. They have the way they manage the pricing is based upon the demand, and that helps them to be able to sell out. But it's a far superior stadium that we've ever had in San Francisco.
Right. If they have a bad matchup on a Tuesday night or whatever, they'll drop the price of tickets, which is cool jewel as far as I'm concerned. It gives people who don't have the corporate kind of mindset, where you're getting tickets for $100 each, the working poor, as it were. And God knows there's a lot of working poor amongst us. And so they basically give us all a chance to see a ball game every now and again. And it's terrific. You did mention that the neighborhood around the new ballpark has incredibly improved. I mean, just
talk to the old Bob Begley, who was manager of the A&A Hotel, the manager of many hotels, and he talks about when he was a boy, his mother said, "If you don't straighten up, you're going to wind up south of Market Street," and that's how it is a booming area. I mean,
Absolutely.
you probably remember it too when there was slum housing and dilapidated old housing that had long since lost its vitality. Is all come
right,
back.
And it was an industrial area that just wasn't working.
Right.
The industry was going out to Oakland, and it's the best thing since shredded wheat. So you got to give the McGowan and Bear and you and all those folks involved the kudos. And listen, we might be up against this so quickly. It's spring training. And by the way, it doesn't go unnoted that my New York Giant team when I was 11 became your San Francisco Giant team when you were 11.
Well, it's a double deal, isn't it, really? The Giants and the Dodgers came out at the same time. And I know. How the Brooklyners feel about losing their team.
No, but what you don't know is how the New York Giants feel about losing their team.
It's funny. Every black person's second team of a certain generation was the Dodgers because of Jackie Robinson. But the Giants were really good. People forget. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The Giants had in 1951 in the World Series, Don Mueller was hurt, and they started the first all-black outfield in the history of baseball.
I didn't realize that. I didn't know that.
That's good. I got you to learn something from an equally old guy, who is a savant about these things. I can't tie my shoes or balance the checkbook, but I can tell you that Hank Thompson, the late Hank Thompson, moved from third base to right field in that World Series. And Willie in center, and the Stan Musial of the Giants, the classiest guy who brought Willie along when he first came up, Monty Irvin in left field.
Monty Irvin's daughter was at Fisk when I was there, and she was one of the campus queens, and I got to MC the talent and fashion show, and I remember.
Oh, wow.
He's still alive, is he not? I believe he's in his 90s.
He's still alive. He's 95-something years old. Alvin Dark is still alive. The antithesis of the human being. Alvin did a lot of. Alvin was a product of his Southern heritage. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely right. I think you're right.
And you just I'm forgiving the people of as much as I possibly can for whatever it is they were, because we're all what got us here. It's a mixed bag. But Alvin was Alvin, and he was the shortstop of my youth, playing shortstop on that. And when the Giants won it all in San Francisco, their entire managerial and coaching staff was made up of guys like Larry Jansen and Sauer, I think, might have been on.
Sauer.
Whitey Lockman.
Oh, God. Bill Rigney.
Yeah, I'm sure you remember the Whitey Lockman play with Matty Alou when he held them up, and Matty did not take the plate. And Willie said, I would have just run right through that stop sign. And Matty was fast, too, by the way.
He had those three Alou brothers, and they were just great. They were just great.
Yeah. Super times, huh?
Wonderful, wonderful times. And I remember taking the bus out there and watching. One of the wonderful memories I have is going to the ballpark just a few years ago with my 17-year-old when he was maybe 13 or 14, and they flashed on the screen, the Jumbotron, the Sunday that Willie Mays hit 4 home runs in one game. And I turned to my son. I said, if I'm not mistaken, this was like 1962 or so. I said, I think that was a Sunday. And I got out my handheld and Googled it. It was indeed a Sunday, and my father and I had left church and turned on the radio and heard at least a couple of those home runs. And,
oh, wow.
And there I was 50 years later in a ballpark with my son at perhaps the same age, witnessing this, the factoid of that being broadcast.
All right, well, let me leave you with my earliest giant memory in New York, 1951.
Oh,
my grandfather took me to all 3 stadiums. First, the Polo Grounds, and I was hooked. It was before Willie was called up. And then Yankee Stadium, and he said DiMaggio was playing out there. I was 5. He said, you look at that man. It's his last year. He's the best, blah, blah, blah. And then he took me to Ebbets Field, where his sister, my great aunt, lived across the street on Bedford Avenue. And he said, look, that's Aunt Sonny's apartment. And then he took me back after Willie had been called up to the Polo Grounds, and the entire lineup was reconfigured. Bobby Thompson had been the center fielder. They moved him to third base. They moved the aforementioned Hank Thompson to second base for a while. And Willie was Willie. He was just absolute. You have a Willie story for me?
Well, I have an interesting story because when I was the mayor's press secretary back in the mid-'90s, the Emperor of Japan came to San Francisco, and he happened to be a huge baseball fan. And the idea that the mayor then, Frank Jordan, had was to have both Willie Mays and Joe DiMaggio at the same dinner. And they both readily accepted and were there. Now, my job was to get the autograph of each of those on a ball to present to the Emperor of Japan. Well, Willie is very accommodating, and he signed a ball, and Joe actually did sign a ball, and there's 2 parts to the story. Well, what happened was I gave the ball to the mayor. The mayor broke protocol and gave the ball directly to the Emperor of Japan. Now, protocol in Japan is that you do not touch the emperor unless the emperor concedes to it, and you give whatever you have to give to him to an aide, and the aide then hands it to the emperor. Well, the mayor, unaware of or unwilling to abide by that, handed the ball directly to the emperor, and you could see the various tables coming to attention out off the dais because their Secret Service stood up, so did ours, their State Department stood up, so did ours. Well, they were all quelled when the emperor took the ball, smiling like a youngster, went up and down the dais, showing the ball to everyone that he had the ball of these 2 great baseball players. Now, the second part of the story was I took 2 extra balls because I wanted them signed for my 2 sons. Well, again, Willie signed willingly. Joe was reluctant to sign because he didn't really think it was for my sons. So I figured anybody that had married Marilyn Monroe had an eye for the ladies. So I picked the prettiest gal in protocol, and I asked her, I said, would you have these balls signed for me? She said, I'll try, but it'll cost you one of the balls. So she went over, and she asked Joe DiMaggio if he would sign one of the balls. Both the balls, he did. And I have one with Willie Mays and Joe DiMaggio, and she had the second one with Willie Mays and Joe DiMaggio. And she later got married and gave that ball as a gift to her husband-to-be. And so
oh, wow.
That's my wonderful Willie Mays story.
Yeah, that's a great story. Made even greater by the fact that I know that Willie Mays' hero when he was growing up was Joe DiMaggio.
I didn't know that. I did not.
Yeah, I read that in greatest baseball book ever written, called Willie's Time, and it was by Charles Einstein.
I remember reading that. And the one thing I remember from that book is that he would sucker the pitchers in the early innings into believing that they could get him out with a specific pitch, and there was nothing on the line. And then later on in the game, when the game was on the line and there were men on base, they thought they could come back to Willie with that same pitch, and they paid the price for it. They paid the price for it. So how
much of that is Willie's ego talking, and not wanting to? And Willie has an ego. To make no mistake about that. I don't think a player becomes deliberately fooled in the third inning. I think, but
you may be right.
It makes for a nice story. Hey, would you come back another time?
Absolutely. This has just been a complete and pure delight. You bet. Anytime you want, you let me know.
All right, man. We will talk. I'm glad you're my Facebook friend. We have several interesting folks in common that on Facebook. I want to pay a little ode to those people. They developed something that brings families together, brings old friends together, reunion sites, this, that, and the other thing. It's pretty damn cool. Brought us together, my friend.
Thank you so much, Earl. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, let me turn it off. I'll end like I always end every segment. I ask people, I implore them to keep your dreams wet and your humor dry. Keep your kids out of recruiting stations, military recruiting stations, because it's bad. It's bad. They lie. They don't have the facilities in the veterans hospitals. It's just horrible. There are imperialistic wars going on, and it's an economic draft. So keep your kid out of there, and keep your kid off the laps of clerics that wear dresses. It's good for everybody in the family. Makes for a better day. Thanks again for being here, and I will say over and out, everybody. You are back with the Zigzag Man, comfortably zoned, Alameda, California, and joined by a very special person in my life, Suzy Vincent from San Francisco, California, who is a fellow podcaster on hiatus and a fellow comedian on hiatus, and a real good pal. Boy, we got ambulances going by, fire trucks.
It's for me, isn't it, Zig?
It's because you're hot as fuck. That's what it is. And they know it. They know I'm
true.
Oh, well, you know, a lot of things. We're all waiting. I got to ask you this, because we haven't talked in a while since the plane was hijacked. What do you think it is? I just want your opinion. Where's the plane? And did anybody talk to you about it?
No. I think my best guess, it has something to do with whoever assassinated JFK. I have no idea.
So it was Edgar Hoover.
Of course. There's just so much talk about what kind of conspiracy it is, and is it hiding in New Guinea or where? And okay, it's a big mystery. So
could it be in the bottom of the Indian Ocean and nobody's ever going to find it?
I guess it could. I guess it's possible for a plane to sink, and so many number of things are possible. Aircraft are supposed to have some kind of transponders. Well, they're not supposed to. They do. They have communication.
The black box.
Yeah, the black box, and there's all kinds of radar. I actually, among my many little-known accomplishments, I took flying lessons for about, 3 or 4 months. Yeah, and they're very expensive, and I ran out of money. I had gotten $1,500 that I could play with, and I said, let me see how much I can learn about flying on $1,500. And I'm taking off. Yes, that was covered. I never really did get around to being able to land. I almost did it once, and I got hit by a plane. But anyway.
You would have done very well with 911. They didn't give a damn about landing. All they did,
Exactly.
And you know what's really scary?
This is post 9/11.
Yeah, hey, this is post 9/11. All right.
Yeah.
And do you have any desire to continue it?
Oh, yeah. You have several $1,000s I can waste. Yeah, it's one of the things that's on my, if I win the lottery, I would buy not just a nice house. I would buy a mansion type house in an air park. They actually have communities, residential communities, that are air parks for the very rich people, and you have a lovely house with many acres, and running down the backbone of this entire community is an airfield, and with little runways up to each individual home. And I dream about those kind of things. I'm
sure it would be easier to win the lottery than it would be to learn to fly if you live in Malaysia. That's the odds. At this point, you got to weigh the odds both ways, and I'm looking at it. They're nice people, I'm sure. I don't know very many of them, but just from the track record, the statistics, they're not good flying. You just got to say. Just in general. But I wanted you back on the show for two reasons. First of all, you helped me so much when we both were working at FCC Not So Free Radio, the podcast studio.
Very expensive.
They're very expensive, and the money had nothing to do with it. The expense came in different ways, emotional expense. When you deal with folks, with certain folks, you can't put a price tag. It's absolutely priceless, the amount that it cost in emotional expense in dealing with the owner and the manager of that station. It was fucked. Mm-hmm. He fucked up a lot of nice people that I know, fucked with their heads.
And he will continue to do it, no doubt, unfortunately. But
right. So you have
sadly
a
not to us.
Endorsement. You have a ringing endorsement. If you're considering doing podcast radio in the San Francisco area, please consider something else. There's all kinds of alternatives. And one of them is what I'm doing with Spreaker. I have the option of going live. I have the option of putting together podcast, MP3s, and the ability to have
telephone interviews like this.
Right, and
like
all
what
these
we're
things
doing right
you told me about it.
Oh, yeah, but somebody else told me about it, so I was just sharing knowledge. I was glad to do it, and I'm really glad to see that you're taking advantage of it.
Well, I am, and it's much more fun, and I'm very appreciative of all the help you gave me along the way. So,
no worries.
Even though people help you, that's how life is. But not everybody continues that sending down in knowledge, and believe me, I won't forget it soon. And indicative of the sort of person you are, you mentioned something in passing that you are considering, you've decided and are taking tests in order to see if you match your sister-in-law in terms of donating a kidney. She's in distress for one reason or another, and you're the kind of person that's doing this. Tell me a little bit about that situation.
Well, it's almost a little embarrassing.
I can't imagine being that nice a person. So tell me what it's like to be nice, and then later you'll tell me what it's like to be a vegan. Maybe if I became a vegan, I'd be nice.
Being a vegan and being nice can, in fact, go hand in hand, and I am living proof. Zig, my mom had a birthday recently and turned 83. God bless her. She's still going strong. I called her in Florida. We had a nice birthday conversation. Now, of course, she had heard from my other siblings that, she knows that my sister-in-law is ill and is on a list and in search of a kidney. And word got back to my mom that, guess what, Suzy? It looks like Suzy might be the one to have the operation and donate a kidney, blah, blah, blah. So I'm on the phone with my mother, and she goes, I just have to tell you, and I didn't say this to any of the other kids, so I hope none of my siblings are listening, but when they told me about that, I just swelled up with pride. And she, I teared up, and she teared up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a wonderful thing that my buddy's wife, Diane Gilpin, gave a kidney to a good friend, a neighbor, 10 years ago, and they're both going strong. And
oh, good. That's encouraging for me.
Well, you don't have to worry because whether or not you believe you're a creationist or whatever, the body was meant or designed to one could live on one kidney quite well. My dad lived for many, many years with one kidney. Actually had a wish from a genie. Ended up with a kidney-shaped swimming pool, which got all screwed up.
Put the vaudeville stuff away.
All right, but he did. He lived 25 years.
Oh, well, that's wonderful too. Here's the thing. It is a noble gesture, but that's the people I think that do it don't do it to be noble. Okay, so and I can only speak to why I'm doing it, and I think probably in most of these situations the motivation is the same. So my sister-in-law, whose name is Joan, is not just some woman that married my brother. I've known her since we were children because she and my brother started going steady when they were 13. So they were children. I was 11. So I've known her longer than I've known most people that I'm not a blood relative to. And we're very close. And she has advanced kidney disease. She is dying. I mean, we're all dying. But she's facing dialysis, and they don't know really how much that can help. What is wrong with her is pretty rare. Another side light to this story is I lost my dad to cancer at a very young age. So I was 25, he was 50, very, very sad. And losing somebody who's very close to you always gives you that thought. My dad had cancer in the bone marrow, which in the late 70s, they weren't doing the transplants and so forth.
Right.
But you have that. We knew for 2 years that he was going to die sooner rather than later. And the thought is always, if there was anything I could do. And in this scenario, there is. And I'm just like, how could I not at least look into it? So I'm 59 years old. I'm not a kid, but I'm relatively healthy. And you were right earlier when you said I'm going through the test. There's a barrage of tests. I mean, one upside to this process is, and they say this right up front, you're going to get the best physical exam you've had in your entire life. I've had everything, so there is that. And there's a couple tiny red flags. There's a little bit of blood pressure, white blood cell low, a little protein in the urine, but they look into everything. So I'm doing it because how could I not? I'm not afraid of surgery. I'm not squeamish about it. Also, and I think this is important for your listeners to know because it speaks volumes for the lovely state we live in. In the state of California, it is the law that private employers, I guess government employers can skip this, but private employers must provide their employees with paid sick leave for either donating bone marrow or donating organs. Now, the bone marrow is 30 days, not calendar days, 30 work days of sick leave with pay. And for organ donors, it's 90. So my initial thought that had to be straightened out is, well, what about getting paid and how much time, how much sick time, It's not a worry in the state of California, which I think is absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's no boss that can that would take something like that to heart and say,
right.
Although there are bosses that would think about it, I'm sure.
Oh, and you don't have to have your job waiting for you when you come back. Your job or a job of equal pay and responsibility. So yeah.
Just that they had to legislate, it meant that there were people that were trying to get away with not doing that. But I'm proud that you're my friend. How about that?
Well, I'm proud that you're my friend. That's why I share.
Oh no.
So and actually,
I'm more proud, Suzy. I'm more proud than you are.
No, I'm more proud than you are.
Well, you have good reason. I don't know why you would be. I get up in the morning, I sit in the sun, I take a hit, I listen to music. I'm as close to being an oxygen waster as you can possibly be. Hey, listen.
No way. I would beg to differ.
Anytime you want to come back on the show, just to chat and catch up and tell me how you're doing, and we'll keep track of you.
Sure. I may have 6 to 8 weeks of bed rest ahead of me, so we'll have plenty of time.
This will give you plenty of time, and you know how we set it up with the conference call. You can bring your guests on. I know you must miss podcasting a little bit, at least.
You know, I do miss podcasting. My life has been pretty busy. Another reason why I'm taking this hiatus is my day job, the one that actually pays me, has added a little bit more responsibility. So more time has to go into that these days. That's not going to last forever, though.
I certainly appreciate that. Sometimes bucks have to come first. And one other thing I just wanted to mention, you're from back east. You're from New Jersey.
I am.
And I know that your life's goal, and it couldn't be every day you get up. You told me the story. You'd say to yourself, maybe tomorrow I'll get up and I will have been from New York.
No, lies.
Didn't
lies.
You?
Stop it.
Don't all New Jerseyites pray that I should be taken in the middle of the night?
It's the New Yorkers that
okay.
Find
no,
endlessly.
That ain't the way I heard it.
Because you're from New York,
That's for damn sure. All right, Suzy, I miss you, and we'll
I love
keep
this
in touch.
Opportunity. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for gracing the Comfortably Zoned airwaves. You are Comfortably Zoned with the Zigzag Man from Alameda, California. You're in San Francisco, and we have the great website, the internet as they used to say. Suzy, I'm going to close the segment like I close most segments, and I want you to listen to how I close it. I implore people to keep their dreams wet and their humor dry, keep their kids out of recruiting stations, military recruiting stations. It's very bad for the whole family. You take your kid in there, your child comes back a different person.
That's right.
Not good. There are imperialistic wars going on, being fed by an economic draft. And if any of those words confuse anybody that's thinking of giving their child, take heed, Google all this shit, play it back.
That's right.
And talk to people. I also implore people to keep their children off the laps of clerics that wear dresses.
Amen. No pun intended.
Right. Just in general, isn't it always better for the family if your kid doesn't come away with that certain look on their face that you go, uh-oh.
That's right.
Uh-oh, what did I do? I left my kids here with Father O'Brien. I made a big boo-boo. So Ziggy tells you that. Goodness. And most importantly, to all of you, you included, keep on keeping on. Thanks, Suze. It's a great show.
Take care.
Glad you were here. Bye, Dawn.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I am back, comfortably zoned, Oakland, not Alameda, California, right across the estuary. I took a hike over the Fruitvale Bridge, and I am overlooking Alameda. And it's a man-made estuary, so what man can conceive, that kind of thing. Here, bi-coastal, uncomfortably zoned, with the Zigzag Man, with the lovely and provocative Susyn Bernstein from Florida. How the hell are you?
Well, I'm in the quintessential South Florida place. A nursing home.
Right. So, I used to joke, old people and their parents.
Yeah.
Florida. If you come from the Northeast, where we both come from, it's a Jewish law that you have to move to Florida, or they can't bury you or something. I don't know what it is.
Something. It has to do with tattoos and nursing homes in Florida.
Right. You can't get tattoos, although I bucked the trend. I have one tattoo of Hervé Village. I don't know if you remember him. I have a tattoo of tattoo on the smaller of my two butt cheeks, which makes me unusual. And it's limiting. I can't get into a Jewish cemetery, but I have no desire. Susyn, you're going through. You're a baby boomer, and this is all the people I've talked to this week who will be on later in the show are baby boomers. And there's a big misconception about our, and I use this phrase advisedly and in quotes, the failed generation. And I'm a baby boomer. I'm one of the originals. You're one of the last ones. But I feel very put out by that phrase because I noticed that baby boomers stick it out till the end, and they have a certain something. We were basically the spoiled generation. We were right after the war, no threat of that. Parents,
sorry, go ahead.
So you're having come to the point in life where you are, and what you're doing really makes me proud of being a baby boomer, and I want you to tell me what's going on recently. I know what's going on, but I want you to tell my audience and let me cavil, if you will, about a successful baby boomer, the way I look success to be. It has nothing to do with the amount of money you accumulate or riches. It has to do with the amount of fun you have and the people you're there for at the end. And tell me a little bit about what's going on, Susyn. I'll shut the fuck up.
Well, shut the fuck up.
All right.
Well, it's only kidding. Here's the deal. I mean, I loved what you said about baby boomers and that we're the failed generation, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there were conditions that started. We were the first generation to realize that we've been fed a bunch of bullshit. I mean, we were informed. Yeah, was it selfish? Of course it was. It was because our peers were getting sent to, this place that we had no business being. It was stupid. And because it affected us, we benefited. We became very aware of what politics really are and became very political. And, if it was selfishly driven, so be it. But we had the experience. And
it was. Go ahead. I was going to say, add to that the sexual revolution, which brought women in and equality and all that, or at least recognizing the inequality. There is no equality that goes on. But so we've come a long way in a lot of ways.
We have come a long way in a lot of ways, and I lived in the corporate world, unfortunately, for many years. Wasn't very good at it, but it
commerce eludes me.
Let me just tell you a little bit about what it's like for the boomers' rite of passage. You know, that's how I look at this. Every generation has one. You know, everybody goes through this. You know, it's the cycle of life. And, you know, as boomers, I mean, they said we never did anything. That's not true. But what was true is that we held on to who we really were as youth, you know, for a long time and maybe forever. I have this feeling that our internal clocks, we never really get older than maybe our 20s, you know. I'm shocked every time I look in the mirror. Yeah.
Absolutely. Inside, I am the same way. And we've talked about this on Facebook. Proud of our wrinkles, but we don't know where the hell they came from. You know, in the sense, because time, it went so fast, and I still feel like a responsible babysitter. I felt that way when I was when I was 17, 18 years old. I could take the subway by myself. I could clean myself. I could watch sports. I could load a bong, and I was I'm everything I grew into be. I'm 67. Things haven't changed. But you know,
I totally get that.
I watch a lot of ball, always watched a lot of ball. I walk in the sun, always walked in the sun. Love the beach, always loved the beach. Get high every day. Oh, music is nice. The food is good. You know. Yeah. What's changed? Am I right? Life is good from that standpoint. Yeah. We both have the Peter Pan complex, which is nice.
Yeah, we all do, I think. You know, most of the people, actually mine, as you said, was kind of the last generation of boomers. So I came of age in the late 60s, early 70s, you know, Timothy Leary, you know, let go, and you know, all of that.
Oh, yeah, and I was there in the summer of 68 and all that. Which...
So impressed with myself. But we were more intellectually driven, I think, and more curious, and we didn't have the computer. You know, the computer age has dehumanized us to a degree, and I don't want to be 87 like my mother and have absolutely no idea how you live in this century if you're not that. You know, so, you know, it's unfortunate that we don't. This is the only country, I'm very well traveled because of my job, my work that I used to do.
Tell me about the work you did.
I was in sales and marketing worldwide for some high-end hotels in Florida, and I lived in Orlando for, I don't know, 20 some odd years. That was scary. They used to call me the nice foreign girl because I was from New York and Jewish.
Yeah, well, it's you had Disney World. I was at Orlando once. There's a lot of hotels and a lot of Disney World, and to get to the different parts of Florida, you have to go the kind of roads you have to travel with alligators on the sides and what have you.
Wow.
Am I right?
When it was still in Orange Grove. I mean, when I moved there in 1990-ish, about right when the Daddy's Gulf War broke out, and the first one, and you know, it happened 4 days after I got there, so all the jobs dried up. But I went out there. I had always been in the wholesale travel business in New York. And I was marketing Florida and Bahamas, so it was just a natural for me to have to move to Orlando because I worked with all the hoteliers. So who better to have, you know, do your sales and marketing than somebody that was on the receiving end of it. You know, I spoke my client's language. So I did that for a lot of years, and I traveled all over the world on their dime, which was great, and got quite the education. And I can't tell you.
What did you learn about people from all different countries where we all have a certain common denominator?
Well, certainly the common denominator, the only common denominator that I saw, honestly, was Beavis and Butthead. Every place they had Beavis.
Okay. In other words, there are schmucks all over the world, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So I might say "oi" to that. Can you think of one more so I could at least come up with some hope? Yeah, seriously.
Well,
is it the music? Could it be music? Could the music ever bring us together?
I don't think so. I think it's I could be totally wrong. I've been searching. I don't believe in anything really, which is really bad. You know, it's not good for the soul. But this, this has made me question some stuff, and really, as watching my mother turn into a child is.
She's going through some rough times, and you've been there to take care of her. And as your buddy, I'm real proud of the way you guys have come together at the end. But yeah,
it's very, very weird. But I don't know if we'll ever come together. I'm kind of a little bit pessimistic after I've seen the world we live in. And you know, the only thing I think we've ever heard from either party, because they're both pretty much the same, they're funded by almost in the same way, is when the last Republican that ran for office in the last election was caught on tape. Saying we don't care about that 80% or 90%. Let them die. Let them go away.
Yeah.
That was honest.
And he got votes. He got 40-odd%, 40+% of the votes. Who in that? I mean, and the people that were voting for him, obviously, were of the 98%. How could they go out? How could I don't understand it. It makes me.
Do you agree that it might be the only honest thing we've ever heard out of a politician's mouth?
That's right. He said it. He got it on tape, and he still got 40-odd% of the vote. 40%
I know, because Americans. You asked me the question before. What did I learn? With all the different cultures and people that I've been friends with and exposed to, and who's to say that this family that works together in a rice field in Vietnam, that are together and they enjoy life, they enjoy each other, they work hard. Who's to say their quality of life is so much worse than someone who never sees your kids because they're too busy making money to acquire stuff? Does that make
sense? Yeah.
Happier?
No question.
Yeah.
And they get to sit out in the sun, and the guy that's making the money sits in a concrete building, and he doesn't care about ecology because he hasn't seen a blade of grass since Christ was a corporal, and he lives in a dark, dank world of lower Manhattan, and they're the 1% that own, the more than countries are worth. More than continents are worth.
I'm just really frightened because we were kind of the last generation that had, it was all taught by rote, but at least we left being literate, and enjoying reading and, all the stuff that today's computer kids don't have.
Oh, I can identify with my kid. My kid loves the computer, and but he's got something else going. But they have something else going for them, is that they can accumulate up-to-date knowledge quickly. And pardon me?
It's interesting that you brought that up, because there's this whole baby boom going on right now.
Right.
And I feel really sorry for some, infant that has to grow up in the world we made for them.
I hearken back to the year 1990 when my kid was born, and I got to walk him around the hospital, around the halls of the hospital, and the first thing I said to him was, life is really a bitch, but you've already made a difference in mine, and you will make a difference in this world. So I still, I hope I've made a little bit of a difference in the world just by, putting the word out there.
That's the most important thing. That's your job as a parent, to give your child self-esteem. So that you view them as an individual. You talk to them. They're a lot smarter than they used to think we were.
Absolutely. Oh, that he. Well, he's known that. I put a very funny post on on Facebook the other day that my son doesn't have special needs, but his parents damn sure do.
I gotta love you, Ralph. I can't believe...
hold that thought, Suzy Q. Few do, but you never know. You never know. Hey, you're a delight. You're a delight. Let's make this the end of the segment. And would you promise to come back on a regular basis and keep up and add to the show like you are, because you're an additive and you're inordinately bright, you're inordinately well-spoken, and you're not afraid, because what the fuck? You're not afraid to say anything that's on your mind. And you have that, right? What are they going to do? They can kill you, but they can't eat you. And
I'll be your ADD segment every week.
Okay, well, this is kind of it, right? I got 80-something, but they told me what it was. I wasn't paying attention. We both have we both have a little bit of that, and that's what makes us interesting to each other.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure we could. There are certain things we'll remember. Where did I leave that? Oh yeah, I remember. Suzy, I'm going to end the segment because you've never really heard the whole show. But like I end most shows, because I don't know in which order I'm going to play this in. But I'll end it. Here's my ending. Go ahead.
I loved the opportunity. It was really fun. I adore you. You get me. Not many people do, so that's good.
Oh, and vice versa. That's
this was really
cool.
fun.
That's what I like to hear. I like to hear that with every guest. But especially with Suzy, because Suzy, most people don't know. I almost forgot. We went to the same wonderful summer camp years ago and missed each other by 1 year. But am I right?
Incredible. Yeah, it was absolutely
incredible. And there's a reunion site on Facebook of all the alum of Kittatinny Camp.
Here's my problem. I don't remember most of them.
No, I don't remember most of them because they were young. Well, I do because they were younger, but I have had a good memory for a lot of different things. And you do remember Iris Raitt, who has been on this show before, and I saw a posting, right?
I remember Iris Raitt. How can you forget Iris Raitt?
She was
great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole family, I don't know if you know, I don't know if Toby Raitt was still there or Charles Raitt when you were there, but one person that was there was one of the original freedom fighters, Andrew Goodman.
Get the hell out of here.
He was, absolutely. He was there, I think, the year you were there. And I'm proud to say it was the year I left. My brother knew him. I have a younger brother who was there. And I'm proud to say he was an alum of Kittatinny Camp. And one of the heroes among many in that camp and that influenced our lives. Do you remember Jenny Blatt?
No.
Okay.
But,
she was one of the directors.
Yeah, I've gotten to the age where I come home for the store. It's always a surprise, I never know. So it's quite fun. Anyway, I love this. This was really fun, and I can't wait to do it again.
All right. Well, here you go. Here we go with the ending. I implore people on each show to keep their dreams wet and their humor dry, to keep their kids out of recruiting stations, military recruiting stations, bad. Kids, military recruiting stations, bad. Together, remember, we're playing to the common denominator. People could be tuning in. You may not be as smart as Suzy Q. So you just think kid, military, uniform, war, shooting, killing, all that stuff, bad. Also, keep the kids off the laps, Keep the kids off the laps of clerics, male clerics wearing dresses. Now, that could be hard for a lot of people. It just isn't working. Find better daycare. Father O'Brien, with no respect. All the Father O'Briens out there, with all, you expect me to say due respect? No due respect. Absolutely none. Please leave the kids alone. They like you. And they like you because you're a nice spiritual guy, they think, and you're the go-between between their mythology and their imaginary thing, and they don't know what to figure. But when you touch them, it fucks up their whole lives, and it fucks up the lives of people around them. So, I don't know how else to put it. I put it in a different way. Am I right? I mean, it's craziness. It's been in all the papers. People are settling. If you take your kid there, you're complicit. Don't sue. They should sue you for taking your kid there.
Unbelievable,
take him there,
right?
Keep them right. It's unbelievable. Here, Father O'Brien. And worse
but it is believable. That's what's so scary. It's not anymore.
It's real.
Nothing.
You couldn't write stuff. You write stuff and say, well, once they put it in the paper 150 times, once the Pope...
Like the plane. Like
right.
the plane had no news, CNN, they sure made, they were really happy.
It happens.
For like
sometimes
3 days,
we got to laugh to keep from crying, but we'll do that again, and I hope you'll be back because I enjoy your company.
Well, thank you, my darling. I enjoy yours, too. And goodbye to all your listeners, whoever you may be. And
all right. And give your mom a big hug.
ADD will check in again.
Well, you be ADD Radio, da-da-da-da. Okay. I'm talking to a woman with a face for television. I have a face for radio. So, over and out, everybody. See you, Suze.
Bye-bye now. Thank you. Bye, Ralph.